Okay, last time we were talking I said I would show you a picture of the Tolbar, the Tolbar cottage where I was born and brought up. So I've got it here. I'll see if I can show it to you. There we are. You see, it's quite a substantial house right on the side of the what is now the A65, the road out of Yorkshire into Kendal and the Lake District, I suppose. Okay, yeah, that was done by Thomas Robinson, who was brought up by a local farming family of Quakers, and I think he went to a Quaker school. I don't think he went to the school that I went to, but I'm not sure how he got on at school because he had problems. I suppose now he would have some sort of a label attached to him and get special treatment, but in those days he was just sort of not very bright, I suppose. I'm not sure how you would express it, but he was a brilliant artist and yeah, and a good friend as well. We used to go fishing together occasionally. Sadly, I think he died when he was in his 30s, something like that. Anyway, just let's talk about when I went to school. I started school, I suppose, when I was 5 years old. I went to Enmore School. In fact, I started when I was 6 because I was quite ill as a child. I was all having stomach problems, diarrhea and sickness and anything that came along like bronchitis or pneumonia or anything like that. I seemed to get it. I was quite a sort of sickly child, I suppose. Anyway, I went to Enmore School with my 2 sisters. Went on the bus 3 miles away, quite okay. It was an infants and junior school. I wasn't there very long. There was only one thing I remember that probably the school will remember as well, that one day in the class I wasn't very well and I was sick. I was actually sick on the floor and in the classroom, and the trouble was, if that wasn't bad enough, there was another boy who looked at what I'd done and immediately did the same. So the staff had 2 lots to clear up. So not the most popular child, I don't think, in the school. Anyway, as I said, I wasn't there very long because I was finally diagnosed as having TB. Not normal TB, what they called abdominal TB, so that affected my stomach, which was the reason why I was being ill. So I was sent off to a sanatorium for TB, which was at Meathop, near Grange-over Sands, sort of overlooking the Morecambe Bay and the winds blowing in from off the Irish Sea. There are 3 things I remember about the being in Meathop. One was the cold weather. I must have been in over winter because it seemed to be snowing a lot of the time. I remember sitting up in bed with my gloves on, and I was in a ward with another boy, and the end of the ward was open. It had sliding doors, but it was nearly always kept open. I think they only shut the doors when the snow was blowing in. I remember sitting up in bed with my gloves on, watching the snow sliding off the glass roof of the veranda in front. And I think if you got the money and you got TB, you went to Switzerland to be cured. I went to Meathop. I think it was probably free, although it was before the National Health Service. I think the place had been set up by a philanthropist, a local chap who made a lot of money, and so I think it was actually free. Although my dad was always into insurance, so I think we'd all be pretty well covered for doctors' bills and things. So the other thing I remember, apart from the cold, was that one night, early hours of the morning, I suppose, I should say the men weren't in wards, they were in sort of bungalow hut type things in the grounds. We were invaded by a group of men who sat on our beds and took our wireless headphones to pieces, because we had a wireless, we had a headphones, and the men didn't. So they took the pieces and shared them out and sat on our beds listening to a boxing match from America. I always thought that it might be the famous Tommy Farr, Joe Louis fight that was in the 30s sometime, but not sure that the dates were quite right. Anyway, the only date I've got really that I can fix it all to was that I remember we had a bonfire just before I left and came home, and I think that was the Silver Jubilee for George V. So you historians out there can sort of work it out. Okay, it was about 1936 or 7, something like that. Right, those were two things. The third thing that I remember was the food. Now the food generally was quite good. I can't remember anything to complain about. So one Saturday night we would have egg and chips for supper, and I liked that, that was good. The other Saturday night we had tripe and onions. Now that was awful. I don't know if you've ever had tripe, but one of the men in the sanatorium, he said, "This is all in one piece. This is unchewable." I remember him saying that, and he was quite right. I just hated it. And those were in those days, you, especially in a hospital like that, you had to eat everything. It was good for you. Do you good. And I remember I tried to avoid it at all. One time I deliberately fell out of bed, hoping that I would be injured and not be able to have to go and eat this stuff. Anyway, it obviously did do me good, because here I am. So that was Meathop. Yeah, I came out of there and didn't go to Enmore School. I went to Lupton School, which was nearer. And I think that was done because when you were 11, you went off to another school, and if you went at Enmore, you went off to Preston Patrick Boys' School, which was awful. My elder brother Frank went there, and it really was a terrible place. So I think that was one reason to go into Lupton. And also I think my dad knew the teacher at Lupton School, and he was one of the governors of the school. So that was probably one of the reasons why we went there. Anyway, there we are. We'll do a bit more because we're now getting towards the start of the Second World War in 1939. So that might be quite interesting. So, okay, we'll leave it at that. I haven't gone on quite as long this time, so probably not quite so boring. Right, see you another time.